Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not. Welcome to the official start of Dis-Cember. That's right. That's right. Dis-Cember 2022. We back after more than a year absent because I decided to do something different last year. I explained it in my intro video in the preview video. But like I said, I'm doing the odd days will be live action reviews. The reviewing live action movies, and the evens will be reviewing animated films. Except for the 31st, where you get one of each, and then the week of the 19th through the 25th, you will get Christmas reviews along with these. Bitch. Every time. We are starting off with a bang this year, because this is one of the ones that I sought out to review. I've seen it once. I even reviewed it. But the problem was I reviewed, I'm doing Return to Oz. So I did The Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz, and Oz the Great and Powerful all in a row back in 2019. And then Kappa happened, and I was so nervous that I was going to get in trouble. I took every video from my channel down that I thought could be considered child friendly. All the video games that were T down, gone. That's why you have an unfinished playthrough of Deadpool on my channel. And none all Disney reviews at the time. But I'm back. I was stupid. Reviews could be considered, and there was a lot of swearing in those playthroughs. So I don't really see my problem there. But here we are, reviewing it again. And this one is a bit of an odd little duck, I would say. Because, Return to Oz has always been known as one of the more scarier Disney films, coming out at a time where Disney wasn't releasing the box office hits that they were in the early days, and then in the that they would in the 90s. This is around this 1985, around the time there was this Something Wicked, which This Way Comes, Watcher in the Woods, which all are not historically not hits. Tron came out, and even then I don't think Tron is as big as they build it up to be. But yeah. And add on to this, the confusion of this film, because you watch this film and you're thinking, you see the title Return to Oz, and you think, okay, it's a sequel to The Wizard of Oz. Only problem is, first one came out in 1939. This is 1985. That's what 20 I don't know. I can't do math on the top of my head. These are over 30 years. Right? And compound that with the fact that they decided to cast Dorothy younger than she was in A Wizard of Oz, with Veruza Balk, who is 11 in this movie. She's 11 in 1985, so she could have been 10 at this point, playing 9, I think. Judy Garland was 17, playing 16 in her film. And you can't tell me she was trying to play younger than that. Someone said, she was 17 playing 7. And it's like, yeah, no. She wasn't going that far, although her voice. I am Dorothy, small and meek. I know in the books, Dorothy was a young girl, but it is confusing when you, especially if you think of this as a sequel. If you think of this as a sequel, and you, like what I did when I first watched these, I watched the Wizard of Oz, then Return to Oz, and then Oz the Great and Powerful, which you probably should watch Oz about first, but I've watched them in the way they came out, and it is jarring, especially since the effects in 1939 were better than here. There's some green screen shit that just, oh no. But quite interestingly, and kind of laughed at it this morning when I put it on, But put the DVD in, and it has just a regular bare bones menu. There's some other stuff. There's an interview with Fairuza Balk. It looks like at the end of the interview, they just had her do an intro because you press play to play the movie, and a little small intro pops in with her quite literally phoning in her intro. Hey, this is Fairuza Balk, and this is my first movie, Return to Oz. It's coming up next, or something like that. And my first movie, Return to Oz, is coming up next. And the movie starts, and it's like, wow, that's half-assed, isn't it? Quite literally, all they did is after the interview, hey, can you introduce the movie for us? And she just gave that quick little half-assed intro. You know, and I haven't watched the interview so I can't tell how much she cares, but yeah, and they kind of take elements from the first one, like such as some characters from Oz being represented, sharing actors with those in the real world. You know, and bring back to Ruby Slippers, which they had to license, and then you get the three other characters, the Scarecrow, the Cowardly Lion, and the Tin Man, which they call Tin Woodsman. Maybe that's a copyright thing, I don't know. But they're barely in this. The Scarecrow's in it more than the other two, but barely. And we start off with Dorothy. I guess it takes place 6 months after the first film. First book, first story, whatever. After her coming back home from Oz. And she's gone nuts telling people Oz exists. They don't believe her. So Aunt Em, played by Piper Laurie here, and Uncle Henry, played by a very small cameo of Matt Clark, who I know is Walt from the Jeff Foxworthy show. He's got beard here, which is kind of cool. They decide they've had enough, and they're going to take Dorothy to this radical new procedure, electroshock therapy. It's not that bad. Meet this doctor, Dr. Worley. Basically tells her that it's not going to hurt, everything's going to be fine, but she doesn't want to do it. She sees a little blonde girl in the mirror and runs off, running away from this. So the three characters that cut over. Worley, it represents the Gnome King in Oz. His female assistant doctor lady represents Mombi, a witch lady in Oz who cuts people's heads off. We don't see it, but she wears different heads. And the orderly is representative of one of the Wheelers, the head Wheeler in Oz. I think the guy also does the voice performance of the stop motion wall creatures that talk to the Gnome King. I don't know. But, yeah. And so she lands in this pond that turns into a puddle, and then talks to her chicken, Delina, because I don't think they could use Toto for more than 5 minutes in this movie. You see him, and it's gone, because I think Toto's another thing they had to pay for. They didn't pay that much for it, so Ruby Slippers are also barely in this towards the end. Her and her chicken, Delina, she tells the chicken, hey, this is the evil desert or whatever. And I'm like, how would you know that? You never went to a desert when you were last time. Maybe it was in the book, but again, if you're watching this almost right after the first one, or if you're more familiar with the first one, you're not going to understand that. Then as they find a path, she realizes it's the Yellow Brick Road and makes her way to the Emerald City, which is in the shambles now. I guess in her absence, the Scarecrow was made the king. I know at the end of the first one, they're like, the Scarecrow with his wiseness would watch over the place, but did they really mean that? Come on. I mean, come on. What was Glinda doing? She's not even in this. Again, probably copyright. But they don't mention any of the witches, actually. Which Glenda would be the only one left, I think. But anyway, so, they find the Emerald City in shambles. People are turned to stone and their statues with their heads cut off, which connects to Mombi later. But she finds new friends. She finds a little wind-up robot guy named TikTok. No, not the app where you can shake your booty to music. No, it is literally a wind-up robot. And he's a walking plot device. Yep, because you have to wind up his brain, wind up his words, and wind up his movements. So that leads to moments throughout the movie where, movements stop, brain stop, because comedy, yeah, it's unnecessary. And if it's from the books, fine. And it could work in book form, but it just only leads to some comedy things. And, that said, a plot line later in the film. She finds Jack Pumpkinhead, who calls her mom because he can't find his own mom. It's confusing when they reveal his mom later, but he's got a pumpkin for a head. And then eventually, the Gump, which is a moose head that they attach to a couch with wings. Somehow, it's not wings, it's plant leaves, but really vacuuming the hallway now. But yeah. So there's our team. And I think if I was a little kid and I watched this, after the Wheelers scene, that would scare the crap out of me, but I would be disappointed. Because if I'm a kid and I'm a big fan of The Wizard of Oz like I was, and I found out about this movie when I was a kid, and they're like, Return to Oz, I want to watch this? Yeah! And then I put it on, and it's like, what? Where's the Scarecrow? Why are the Lion and the Tin Man frozen in stone? Why is there a moose head talking like the... No. I would be disappointed. But, as an adult watching this, I understand copyright, that sort of thing. But there is also the Gnome King. He's watching over them, and Mombi kidnaps them. Well, kidnaps her, and that's how she gets the Gump, I think, and then she's able to fly away. But they crash in the desert again on these cliffs because they're going to the Gnome King. And by this point, Galena, the chicken, has disappeared. Oh, I forgot a scene where she has to get... There was something she has to get. I don't remember what it was. Is it the magic dust stuff? I don't know. But the other head, there's some scary moments in this. Pretty sure. For sure. But so we get the climax of this film is a game. Because the Gnome King says, hey, I have your friend the Scarecrow, but I turn him into one of my ornaments. If you goes in there and tries to guess, if you can guess correctly, you can go free. But it's a trap, because if you guess wrong, which he doesn't say, you didn't ask. Yeah, sure. Then they are turning into ornaments. So, the Gump goes in first. He fails. Jack goes in next. He fails. And then, next is TikTok. And they make sure stuff is wound up before he goes in. And, and then they're making a big deal about the chicken. So that's going to come in handy. Because they're like, the chicken's not with them, is she? And don't see it. Apparently there's a deleted scene where the chicken went into Jack's head. That is where he is. But, I don't know. They deleted that scene, so it comes as a surprise later. But, yeah. And so, the little dude that talks to the Gnome King tells him, hey, the guesser has one guess left, but he stopped moving, and oh, his movements run down. So he sends Dorothy in there. It says, "Oh, after he fails, you can guess." And so she goes in there, but it's a ploy so that she can see what he turns into. Only problem is, when it does happen and he guesses wrong, it turns black, so you don't see what he turns into. And so it's like, no, what was the point of her coming in there? What was the point? What was the point of that whole? Because the whole plot with him, it's a plot point that he winds down just so they can set up that thing, and it doesn't really need anything other than she is also in there. So now it's her turn to guess, and she guesses wrong twice, so she gets one more guess, which I guess I didn't get that. She gets 3 tries. And she does a spin around thingy, all the while Mummy is trying to tell him, hey, and he's bragging about, I will be human soon, and this and that, and she's going to lose, but she spins around, she finds this bird one, she's about to do it, she stops, look at this green gem, oh, by the way, so the Gnome King says that the emeralds from Emerald City used to be his, and that the people of Emerald City stole it. Specifically, the Scarecrow, who was in charge, and Dorothy tries to say, hey, he was only in charge, he didn't steal it, it was already there when he got put in charge, but then he reveals that he stole the ruby slippers, which is double standard. I don't know. But, yeah, so she finds the green gem, she says, Oz, and it turns into, the Scarecrow. And so then she starts having to find the rest of them. So I find another one, the little thing, and it's, because they're all green now, is what it is. All the people from Oz are turned green. So, the Oz, and it's Jack. So then I gotta find it's the Gump. Excuse me, it's the Gump. And then they're trying to find the other ones, and there's this vase that's supposed to get knocked over because the Gnome King has gotten mad now, and he's angry. Oh, and someone's knocked over, but Jack, Scarecrow, excuse me, catches it. And she's able to turn it, and it's Jack. And so they don't find TikTok. They don't find TikTok. But instead, the Gnome King gets all angry, and there's a final battle, and he eats the Gump's couch, but not the head. And then goes to eat Jack, but it's revealed that Galena is inside, and she lays an egg, and that's another plot point, that she couldn't lay eggs, and they're about to get rid of her. She lays an egg into the Gnome King's mouth, and it turns out the eggs are poison to gnomes. Okay, that was not mentioned before, but fine. And, yeah, the Gnome King dissipates. She gets the ruby slippers and wishes them all back to the land of Oz, where they're transported just outside of the Emerald City. And wouldn't you know it, there is a green medal, or a silver medal with a green ribbon, and it's TikTok. There's TikTok, and yeah. And Mombi is captured. She was already captured in a cage by the Gnome King, because he had enough of her. I like how she came in and he made her bow down all the way down to the floor, and even that wasn't low enough. Lower! But yeah, and everything is back to normal, but then she wishes that she could be both go back home and stay there. 2 places at once, basically, and that reveals Ozma is in the mirror, which was the girl she kept seeing in the mirror when she was at the psychiatric hospital, and Yeah, and so Ozma gets the ruby slippers, which I guess I didn't mention in the book were silver, but they kept the ruby because people would understand it better because of the movie. And then she is sent back, and she's like, "Oh, I wasn't ready to be sent back." And it's like, "Well, yeah, but you know." And she wakes up in the riverbed, which is where she was floating. So again, it's once again insinuated it could have been a dream because you don't know the original movie. It was insinuated it was a dream, but in the book, it already happened. Here, it's kind of insinuated the same. Turns out the psychiatric hospital burnt down. Everyone survived except for Dr. Worley, who was the Gnome King and would be dead. So, And she sees Ozma and Galena. Galena decided to stay behind because she doesn't want to go back to the boring old Kansas now. And she sees them in the mirror and tries to tell Aunt Amber, like, no. She goes, never mind, it's just a reflection, and the movie ends. The movie is okay. There are some, I could see that some of the scenes in this movie could be scary to kids, but this is PG when PG meant something. So there's that. I think the puppetry is pretty good. I think it's the Henson Company. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it is pretty good. The green screen work could use some touch-ups. It was very obvious. Like, no. So when it comes to Return to Oz, I'm going to give it a middle of the road. Because just, I don't know. It's not for me, but it's a decent start to Dis-Cember 2022. So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on Return to Oz? And become so much like, share, and subscribe. And next, for the animated portion, we are going all the way back to 1946 for a Disney classic film. Till then, thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.